I was thinking. Exams are a bit like giving birth. No one enjoys doing it, but the end result can be pretty rewarding, and I say can as long as you don't drink or smoke constantly through the build-up, but just like the product of giving birth, i.e. children, they can also be pretty easy to screw up. I remember when I was a child, well vaguely, and I specifically remember having conversations with foreign adults who I can only describe as looking, smelling and behaving like corned beef, who on finding out that I was a child and not a homunculus would say something like, childhood is the best time of your life. I also remember looking down on my chemistry papers when I was 16 and hearing those words echo in my mind now that I had spent 2 years in a recurring hell in which all I did was sit exam papers and thinking to myself, well they must have meant childhood up until about 8. Those crafty bastards. I'd like to talk about the crippling worry I'm sure I had about my exams, but seeing as I didn't study for half of them, I can't have given that much of a shit. And I'm not one of those people destined to be huffing paint at a Walgreens staff car park at 30 who says, oh yeah, I didn't study, but I still got an A. Nope, I fucking failed. I failed an awful lot. But it wasn't because I'm a royal family short of an inbred retard. Shouldn't have smoked through the pregnancy, ma'am. I mean, it's not all that. Passing exams is usually pretty easy, but only if you sign up for the trade-off, and the trade-off is swapping anything you actually like doing with studying. You have to get to know your subject the way a man with tunnel vision cataracts might get to know the back of a finger, very thoroughly, but only so far as the curriculum demands, because wasting time going off syllabus and actually learning about something because you're interested in it is just that, a waste of time. You see, you might know everything about AUKUS mobility, you might know statistics about how much carbon dioxide it sucks up, or the exact pH of soil it prefers, or its birthstone, but if the question on the exam wants you to name another flower in the same family and you can't, all that knowledge isn't going to help you. And that's the charge often placed on schools, that they're just teaching kids to pass exams, but that's the nature of testing. Take the driving test. No one actually drives like that once they pass the test, and everyone knows it. It's a process of jumping through a hoop and demonstrating that you can drive like a frightened computer, and that you do know better and are responsible for when the police pull you over for holding a soda in one hand and fire a taser into your chest. If you really want to pass a test, you've just got to practice and understand that the questions want you to answer in a thorough way. Like a lonely person you make the mistake of asking directions from on the street and they end up offering you alternative routes, destinations and to take you out to dinner. But you can't make a list because that would be too convenient, and I suppose if you were stuck you could just start writing random things very quickly. Trojan horse, Agamemnon, Gammon, Germanicus, Examiner, Statisticus, Pythagoras. I think I might have just turned Harry Potter into a real boy. I seem to remember I had an exam once in an extremely echoey hall where a tape of a thickly accented Scottish Hoover read out equations that the examinees had to quickly solve, and all I heard was nothing worse than an unfair exam, or indeed looking down at an exam paper and thinking how easy it is but not being able to answer anything because you didn't study. Well, I suppose there is. Boko Haram or peptic ulcers or Cliff Richard. When's he gonna die? And the only remedy, not to Cliff Richard, the only remedy to him as holy water or destroying the portrait of him that's constantly aging, is to study. Christ, I realise I've reached a new level of fartage if that is my genuine advice. Study if you want to pass. I'd like to say you shouldn't even bother. You don't even need that shit anyway, and shit it is, but need it you will, because everything is an exam well after you leave college and are in what you might laughably call a career. Here's some news for you. You're judged from the day you're born to the day you die, and I'd say afterwards too if I wasn't certain that everything we work so hard to achieve in our lifetimes will be forgotten while we're still drooling. You need to get good grades in a little girl school so you can get into a good big girl school, so you can get into a good college, so you can get a good degree, so you can get into a good graduate program, so you can bask in the eternal sunshine professionals climbing a ladder, clearly swimming after breakfast and when coming home to their 60-inch TVs and yin-yang tables. Let me put it this way, if you're going to be brilliant and compose symphonies or rally the disenfranchised in beer halls or invent a way to see the colour of people's souls, spoilers, they're all brown, you don't need exams. But if you're not going to do any of those things and are instead going to work in sludge corp, or you want to be a brain surgeon, astrophysicist or geography teacher, then they really are important, because if you're not studious or gifted, you might end up sitting on a toilet in a third world country. Just a thought. Shooting isn't worth it, but if you're going to do it, for God's sake, don't get caught. And the best way to do it is the same way to pull a sled.